can't.
Right, the pledge, or just say, listen, the pledge of allegiance.
You just.
I know that in the morning.
We stand and do the pledge of allegiance, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Burke,
Here.
Commissioner Terrell,
Here.
Commissioner Dobbs,
Here.
Commissioner Owens,
Here.
Vice Chair Dolzall,
Yeah.
Commissioner Sedgberg,
Here.
and then Chair Moriarty is absent. We have Chief Mendoza and Counselor Metcalf.
Okay, community comments. Okay, moving on to consent agenda. Do I have a motion for the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion.
Second,
Second.
moved in second for consent agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Approved? Chief.
Thank you. Real short on updates. At the moment, most of this you are aware of already. Beginning Saturday is our new bump schedule for the deputies. And so you'll be seeing a couple new faces here in Estacada. There'll be 2 new deputies that are going to be starting their rotation on Saturday. So those two will actually work on Saturday. So if you're around town, you may see them, one in the morning and one in the evening. And then we've got Deputy Bigler that is still with us. That we're thankful to have him. He's got a ton of experience and he's on the other half of the week.
Great. Thank you.
Mhm.
Is that it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we're gonna finalize the annual report and budget. And this will be new for me, so. Looking in our packet. Feel free to move me along. But I see we've got $500 for the neighborhood watch events, $750 for Estacada school events. Miscellaneous for mock-ups, street sidewalks, evacuations, park safety, 1,500. And then broken out by, I'm assuming that's broken out by specifics. So Main Street 300, Cascadia Ridge 300, Campanella Estates 300, Fairdale Hills 300, and 4th Avenue for 300. That does that up to 1,500. And then police reports and citations, fees associated with police reports, citations, body camera, dash cam and footage, etc. I'm assuming, and Chief, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm assuming that means if we were looking for data, some kind of information from you or something like that, if there's a cost involved, is that what that's for?
That would be correct. Public records requests will, there are usually fees that go along with those through our records department.
Right. Any questions so far? Okay, let's see. And the school events, the crosswalk safety, was that for material? Or was that for a training or something like that?
School events, school zone cones or school. I'm not familiar with that. I don't know. We did
To
that.
do with Rivermill upgrading the safety there.
Do you know, Evelyn?
I don't. Jim is the one that made this budget. So I'm not sure where.
So if the money is not spent, it just sits there?
It does after it's approved, but it doesn't carry over into the next year.
Okay. Moving on, second page. Traffic and public safety programs, $500. That's for the National Night Out. I know we talked about supplies and handouts and games and food and that kind of thing. child seat safety for Estacada with the Estacada Fire Department and the Sheriff's Office. And then a great big traffic signs budget for $29,579.70. Are we sure that goes on our budget?
It does not. Jim asked me to keep it on there though, so you could all see it, but you would be requesting that for the Public Works budget because that would all be purchased through Public Works. So it wouldn't be included in your budget, it would be included in Public Works. So when you do submit your budget to council for approval, that won't be on there. Or you could leave it on, but a note would need to be added saying requested for Public Works.
Because we're an advisory committee. We're not writing checks for the city.
Correct.
Okay. And then as you can see on the traffic signs, they've got the new square reader signs, permanent in neighborhoods, flashers, speed bumps. And they've got cost per on all that. And then city sponsored classes, Estacada, I'm assuming run by the Estacada Fire Department and the Clackamas County Sheriff's Office. 4 different classes, CPR, first aid, defib, and women's self-defense at $250 a piece. I guess that's like a fee or something like that for the trainer or something like that.
I think so, yes.
Okay. Sound right? For a grand total of $34,329.70. Not bad. For an advisory committee. Anyone have any comments?
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Do we have the defibrillators at all 4 of the schools?
I'm not sure of that.
If we don't, I would recommend that we
We
look
can
into that. I think
find
those are
out.
necessary.
I mean, the city we're not really a part of the school district, so we don't dictate what.
That's different then.
So the school board that is responsible for defibrillators and stuff then?
I
Make
would
sure they
assume.
have them?
Yeah, I would assume.
What's the question?
That makes sense. That makes sense.
Make sure that they have defibrillators at all the schools?
The school, if it's a school requirement, they would. I actually suspect that they do have them.
And I would guess that the fire department would have requirements for that,
Yeah.
for them to
Yeah.
have that.
AEDs and stuff like that are pretty typical now in
Right.
public spaces like that
No,
as
all
far
the
as
sports-
first aid equipment.
Sports teams usually have them on the fields and stuff.
So any other questions or comments on the budget?
A question, when, this is the 24-25 TPSC budget. When is this approved already? Are we engaged on this or what?
No, so it will be presented by the chair. I think it's the second. Yes, so it'll be presented to council the second meeting in April. So it needs to be completely finalized by March 31st.
Okay,
So since Jim will probably be the one presenting it,
yeah,
we can wait until your next meeting because you all have to make a motion to approve your finalized annual plan and budget to recommend it to council for approval. So if you guys want to wait for Jim to weigh in or answer more questions about where he got some of the pricing for the budget, we can do that at your March meeting because it'll be right before it needs to be submitted.
okay. The reason I asked that is because talking with some of the public, people are wanting some speed bumps like yesterday. And
Yes.
that's just kind of would like to say something to somebody out there. It's in the works and it's happening and
Yeah, and that would be included within the Public Works budget. So if they can budget for that now, they can work towards getting those installed. But if it's just a request that comes in mid-year, they have to work through their budget and see if they can afford it this year or add it to the next one.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Other question then, if we can't get the speed bump and stuff by River Mill, because I almost got hit head on twice this week coming around the corner from Broadway to the parking area. And my neighbor's little boy, he was taking him to school the other day. where I want the stop sign. A guy blew the stop sign and just missed the little kid. You know,
Speaking in the
That was-
microphone.
Shirley, can you speak in the mic?
oh, I guess, most people tell me shut, no. No, what the speed, where that stop sign is on Broadway and 10th needs to be put in there. Because he was taking his boy to school and whoever it was came out of Campanella's and they're walking across the crosswalk and he just blew the crosswalk and just missed Austin. You know, that's one of my main priorities is that stop sign. And maybe, I know the police, I know you guys are really busy at that time of the day, but that it would help to maybe get a little bit of patrol around River Mill, because the people where they park, like they park on the corners and the yellow curving, well, people can't get around them.
So if I could, right now, we're talking about the budget.
Yeah,
And so what you're talking about are all things, one of two things. They're either in the city's budget and they just
Yeah.
included it for information for us, of which some of that stuff you're talking about is in here. But in terms of speedier action, it seems like just a recommendation from us to the city council to speed that up would be appropriate. In terms of the budget that we are talking about and that we can vote on, is 4750 is the total, because that's the total of all the other things. The fact that Jim is the one that wrote this, I suspect that Jim would be okay if we voted on this tonight, if you guys were in agreement. It would take a motion to vote on it. If you're, one thing that is a little bit squirrely though, is including the 29,579 under the auspices of this committee, since again, I don't know what our budget was last year, but it wasn't 4750.
It's like four. Do we have a balance on that? Do we
It-
know our budget left over or?
You don't carry over into the
don't.
next year, no. I believe your budget last year was around 4,500.
Oh, it was?
And I think you guys only used $150 of it,
Okay.
so.
Where's that money?
Well, just to avoid the
Yeah.
budget sticker shock. But are we okay with voting on the budget?
I think so.
Yeah. Yeah,
Someone step up.
okay. I move we vote on the budget.
To approve. A second?
Okay, we've moved in second to vote on the budget. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Passes.
And that's with omitting the 29,000 from it. You don't wanna send that on.
Right.
Just wanna
Right.
do
That's in the package, right?
4,000.
But it's earmarked, right?
I just wanna make sure.
It's just not our budget. Right. All right. Law enforcement survey draft. No, go ahead.
So I set the survey in front of you all. These are mostly your questions, John. I only got questions from you and Jim. And Jim's were kind of like yes or no questions, so I used mostly your questions. I reworded them to be a little more quantifiable. And Chief here is gonna send it to some people in his staff to look at as well.
So, if I may, I did notice, I looked at the questions that were similar and then ones that were a little bit different.
Mhm.
And so before we do anything with this, again, to reiterate the purpose now, this is going to be a long process. You're talking years, 2 years, something like that. This isn't, oh, let's get our own police department and have at it. And so right now we're trying to be as soft as possible and just see if there's even any interest whatsoever. And so why I bring that up, besides reminding everyone, is some of the questions, like overall, how well do you feel the Clackamas County Sheriff does in providing services to the city of Estacada versus overall, how well do you feel law enforcement in Estacada does in providing services? The difference is having a name. And again, with the idea of trying to be as soft as possible right now. if you've got a name, oh, I don't want to say anything bad about X, Y, Z or something like that, that might influence or not. I mean, I'm totally open to suggestions here, but that might influence a response. You know, if they're talking about Clackamas County Sheriff's Office specifically, that might be a different answer than just in general. And so that's not a concern, it's just a comment. And if we decide to go ahead with the wording as it is, then
And my full intention with this is for
Sure.
you guys to workshop it, take it home, send me any suggestions you have and like work on it. Like this was just your questions. I worded them so that it was a little more like we could take some information
Sure.
from it and use it. But yeah, feel free to take it with you guys and send me comments to change. Like this, I didn't expect you guys to vote on it tonight.
okay. Then it might be helpful then if everyone had all the different survey questions that came in so that they collectively look at everything and then decide what they want.
Yeah, can I add something? It was brought up at the town hall, the citizens town hall. The idea of one, that if you need to be aware, this is just giving you information. That's all I'm here.
Well, no
for.
worries.
Okay, but you will lose the resources that you have currently through Clackamas County, like their CCTV and the speed at which they can identify subjects and things like that, if you go this route, right? So these factors, I think you need to consider into when you're putting this together, like in your questions and things like that, you need to factor in, like, are people prepared to have like you'll have less resources essentially.
Sure.
And then like, there was also brought up about, Carrie, you were there, but it was brought up the idea that you could sponsor a motorcycle or a car and badge it. And again, no direction here from me, just things to think about, that you could sponsor that or pay for it. And it would cost us money, yes, but that Clackamas County would be receptive to that. There was actually an officer there that suggested that we look into a broader array of options than jump right to this. He said that the negative in the immediate would be more like that. There's a lot of things to think about considering this. Now, I love that you guys are moving on this as fast as you are. I would urge you to consider all factors and I love that you said this is gonna be a long process, but I would just add that.
Sure.
If you will.
One of the things that was brought up in the citizens town hall was speed lights where, you've got a light that tags you and you get a ticket, and the better thing that was brought up, as Jonathan was saying, would be a actual officer on a sickle, on a bike, motorcycle. And that would be more personable. Plus it would be more 360 degrees around in situations as opposed to just hitting people with speeding tickets. And the money for that, I mean, years back in Fairview, those things were running 275,000 a piece. And that was a long time ago, but in 06, I think it was, and they're way up there in price. And they took them out. They had them on four corners of 207th and Halsey at one time. And the people said, get rid of them. Everybody was getting a ticket. But anyway, that being said, the exploring these options, good idea.
Yeah,
That's good.
and again, no direction. I want to
Yeah.
be clear. I just think that we have the resources right here this would be a great time to even ask about more of that as you're developing this. But before we hit the community with this, maybe I would encompass more of that conversation into this, because are we really ready to break away from, like, what's the idea is safety. Let me just back up. Sorry. I want to be a little bit more clear. I apologize. The idea here is safety and timeliness, right? And that's what comes to my mind personally. I think about the timeliness, I think about safety, I think about the resources. That it was also brought up that you'd struggle to attract your own judge and things like that, and then jailing and things. So there's a lot more to this than just what do we think and then put it into play. I mean, we would significantly lose. And then for a little bit more money, well, not a little bit, it'd be an investment, it sounded like, but we could also sponsor a car or a motorcycle or something from Clackamas County to have something that's even wrapped Estacada or whatever that would give us the aesthetic of having our, but not losing our resources. I think that if we're going to bring this to the community, I would just suggest that we look at giving them the full scope. I mean, communication and transparency is everything that we've been working on. And I know that as the council's goals, that's something that's very important to us, that are we're going to be holding people a lot more accountable to going forth in committees and stuff as well. So I think it'd be better received. That's just my 2 cents.
Yeah. Chief, do you guys overlap with Malala?
Well, I think the short answer is no. The Malala Police Department patrols anything inside the city limits. And then Clackamas County deputies patrol anything outside the city limits. If they were responding to a priority call, emergency call, and they wanted assistance, we would go help them. But as far as, we're not really mixing, and I don't believe that, well, I do have one unit that Malala has an officer on, and that's our craft team, but they provide an officer that helps on a collateral basis with one of our teams. But I don't think they participate with any other of our teams.
So is this a either this or that type situation? Can you guys in these situations, can we still get services and still work in a team effort with this? Is that done anywhere else? Is there a working model like that?
Not, I mean, there may be, not that I'm aware of. Is it this or that? It's, honestly, that's where you're at this moment is a this and that, because the city of Estacada does not contract for full 24/7 police services. And so, when the city police officer, when I use Deputy Bigler as an example, when he goes home, it's Clackamas County patrol deputies that will then respond to any of your calls for service inside the city. And currently that's not, the sheriff's office isn't compensated for that time or for that service. But we're in a specific part-time model with the city of Estacada due to population. And as the city is growing, the plan is to continue as we're doing Saturday, we're adding another police officer here in town, a deputy that will be a police officer here in the city of Estacada. And as the city grows, we're going to continue to do so. So that the plan, if looking forward, would be to add another deputy. I would say roughly a year from now, we would add another deputy, and then we would actually be quite near 24-hour a day coverage, 7 days a week. There's some reasons why it doesn't quite cover 24/7, but then you have to also factor in deputies' vacation, training, sick time, any normal reason that people are away from their normal job duties. So to replace that person, you would, for a contract, we would just bring in another deputy on overtime to fill a vacancy. If you have your own police department, you have to fill that vacancy with additional personnel that you would have to hire, if that makes sense.
It does. It does.
Okay, is there any way that we can have, I know it's from 7 to 11 pretty much right now. Is there any way that we can switch that so we have a police officer from 11 at night until the morning? Because this is when most of the things happen, just like the harvest market and almost getting robbed. Have a policeman at night to cover, because everybody that does all this garbage around here knows the police leave at 11 o'clock at night.
So I don't want to get into specifics on times of when the deputies are coming and going. I think that's for obvious reasons. But I will tell you that beginning on Saturday, it's nearly 24-hour coverage
Okay.
in the city of Estacada. So we are there for half of the week. The other half of the week, we're going to be moving to that. The reason to not quite cover the 24 hours gives us some overlap during the busiest time of the day. I recognize what you're saying, that the early morning hours, middle of the night, are, we can look at the statistics on the heat map that is, on the, on our public dashboard on the sheriff's office website. We can look at the times of when crimes are occurring and when calls are coming in. So regardless if a crime is happening, when the calls are coming in, that's the slow time. There still are deputies who are patrolling this area. The city of Estacada is within our East County district. So that's where I'm saying right now you're getting both. When the city deputy goes home, there's still county deputies that are here patrolling. There's as I'm sure you're aware, there's a rest stop where the deputies use to write reports and use the restroom and take lunch breaks. That's right on the edge of the city. They also have access to this building to use as well. So that is a reason why deputy would be close to town. I'm happy to take more questions on, maybe the benefits for and against contracting and the or starting your own police department. And I know that I think most of you were here, I think maybe it was a year and a half ago, where I did the presentation on what those contracts look like, the part-time contract and the full-time contract. A quick overview, very, very quick overview of that is we're currently negotiating the contracts with all of our contract cities, the sheriff's office and the contract cities. We're in the middle of that at the moment. But the current one that we're on requires a city to move to the full-time contract once they hit a population of 10,000. There is no, nothing preventing the city from moving into the full-time contract before a population of 10,000. That's just when this contract originated, that was the number that they came up with. It is also defined by the number of personnel that are working in the city, excluding supervisors, which is anything more than 6 deputies. And currently you've got it'll be 4 deputies, the SRO, and then the 3 patrol deputies. So if we add another one, then we're at 5, and then we're getting real close to the 6-7 threshold, which would push you into the full-time model, which then comes with the optional branding of an Estacada police department uniform and branding for the patrol cars as well.
And just for stating for the record, just because I wasn't very clear, can you highlight a couple of the resources? Like, it doesn't need to be super in depth, but some of the resources I was talking about, like the CCTV thing, like versus what we would have if we were to privately do it.
Sure. I mean, there's real briefly, there are so many, the Clackamas County Sheriff's Office is the largest law enforcement organization in our county, and by far. And so there are there's the narcotics team, there's the largest detectives division in the county. You tend to lead the investigations, and so it's not only just the size of it, but the amount of investigations that they handle and the experience that they have. And so a detective division, your canine program, traffic teams, there's our drone program, there's certain things that you still would have access to, like our marine unit that provides waterway patrols. That's going to happen regardless. There are the SWAT team is the different jurisdictions in the county have members on that SWAT team, and that's one of those things that they're not going to say they're not going to come help, but generally the other cities pitch in by providing personnel that helps out, so they are paying for part of that service. Yeah, to name a few, this is a, 24/7 records department that processes all the information. Like we we're talking about records, retention, reports, body cam footage and whatnot.
So, a couple of things. First off, I sure hope no one feels, hesitant to give their opinion. That's the whole point of this exercise. Also, my understanding is this committee is meant to be kind of a liaison between the community and the city council, specifically in the traffic and public safety arena. I do know that there members of the community have expressed interest in our own law enforcement. I would hope, and I don't think so, but I would hope that Clackamas County, and I wouldn't expect this, would be offended or anything like that by people asking these sorts of questions. And in fact, tonight is a great example of kind of looking into it and look what new information we found out. I do know also that, because I get it, some people maybe the idea of having Estacada, police department is great, and others are looking at the big picture and the total services and how does this community shake out? Because it seems to have a very strong sense of community, as Estacada does. I do know, though, my understanding is Malala is using Carrie's example. I think they've got 17 officers. And they're 10,000. How does that happen? Because we started to look into this. This is going to be, there is no time frame for this whatsoever. This is strictly information gathering. And then we'll just find out if the community is not interested, then we wouldn't waste any time on it. Right now, my understanding is that it's actually one of our goals for this committee is to look into that. But that's all it is looking into it. It's not trying to get something started. It's gathering information, because I think, and I speak for myself, I just want to be safe in my community, and that's it. I know that I drive through Malala twice a day during the week, and I see Malala police officers every day. Always. Does that translate here? Honestly, I doubt it, because you're going right through the middle of Malala, but there and here you're not. You're usually driving around the outskirts. So again, strictly information gathering, not meant to make anybody uncomfortable, and this is meant to be a rational process. And then the committee, and then our committee, and then the council will do what they do. But again, just based on the little research I've done, this doesn't happen fast. This is a whole long process. So with that, I don't know if we make any motions or just see a consensus. Are we interested in continuing to look at this, or do we want to just move on? Comments?
I think we should table it for right now until we have more information on it.
I'm gonna, if you don't mind, I'll add two things. One, I think that, obviously when making a decision, the more information you have, the better and more informed decision you're gonna make. So I would encourage looking into this and looking at what the contract provides, what the sheriff's office can provide for you. I do believe that after looking at something like that, that you would recognize the value that the sheriff's office can give you for the resources that you have in the city of Estacada and what we can provide. I think you'll see that when you compare them side by side, you probably walk away happier with the situation they have or with the contract. And the other was that I'd be happy to put together a presentation for you, just to go and again do an overview of how the contract works. Even though we're in the middle, it's not going to change much, but how the contract works and how that will. I think what I would focus on is how that changes when you move from the part-time model, which we're currently on, into the full-time model, Because clearly that's where everybody wants to go. And I, continually, applaud the city for the forward thinking and thinking about the growth that we're going to see in the future, because it's going to happen quickly and you'll need those additional resources.
So what do you think about two things? One, I think that presentation would be outstanding. What it looks like when you go from a part-time to, like you were talking about, what are the population, can it be 8,000 or what population numbers would kick that in? But additionally, go ahead and give the rest of the committee the questions to look at so that they've got that information. And then next time we meet, we can take a look at the information and discuss it at that time.
Chief, I've said publicly many times that I'm very impressed with your agency and how it carries itself out here and handles the law enforcement duties for Estacada. You guys are a top-notch organization. You have a lot of resources, just about everything under the sun that you would need in police work. I know you guys have access to and you use. And I think the thing that I hear that kind of has driven this survey is the response time sometimes, because you said yourself here that there could be times on certain calls that it could be, I think you said 15 minutes or more, because of the distance that we're kind of an outpost. And there's certain times of the day, of course, that we just don't have a deputy here. And of course, I have a background in law enforcement. I understand what you're talking about as far as how long certain things take. There's certain calls that it can pull half your shift to one call, and then you've got nobody, because it just may be a hostage situation, shooting, whatever, that takes a lot of manpower. I think what's driving this is people in Estacada want to know that they have a law enforcement agency that's settled right here, that no matter what's going on, within 5 minutes, even if a city officer's on the other side of Estacada, it's just a 5-minute drive. So that's kind of comforting to them to know that somebody's right there. I don't know how, you can overcome that with just the way life works. Like I said, sometimes middle of the night, I know we don't have coverage for obvious reasons. But maybe with a small city department, they're thinking that we would have 24/7 coverage, and that may not be the case. It depends on funding and manpower and all that stuff. Because I know getting personnel for any police department, whether it's state, county, city, whatever, right now is very difficult. You just can't get quality applicants. And then when you do, if they're from a smaller department, they always want to move to a bigger, more exciting one. And that would be, I'm sure, the case here. You'd have to have somebody that's really ready to kind of settle in, I think, to want to stay here for a long time. So all that being said, I appreciate what you guys do. I appreciate that you come to our meetings. I know that you have to kind of go to city council, and you really don't have to come here, but you take the time out to come here and you speak to us. You let us ask you questions. You're always prepared. With anything we have, you're going to bring presentations, things like that. So I guess this whole thing was just to say, I'm not leaning one way or the other. I value what you do, what you brought, and you're right. All the resources that you guys have, there's no way the city would ever be able to afford to have all those neat toys. They just wouldn't. But if we could figure out some way for you guys to connect with the public more, to say, you understand the response times different, and here's what we're doing to fix it. Here's we're rotating whatever. I think that would kind of alleviate some of the fears and some of the, okay, now we have more coverage, we can back off. Because I don't know cost effective wise what's better in the long run. If we had to take a lot of money to come up with our own police department here, with all the things you have to do to get that started, and does that offset what we pay Clackamas County in the long run? I don't know. But
That's all I got.
Thank you. I would say that um I would say hopefully at least a little bit that puts you at ease that not come this Saturday. Patrol wise, we're increasing our patrol by 50%. We went from 2 patrol deputies to 3. The SRO is in the schools and he's available, but we see that as a SRO and not an actual patrol deputy. He is a resource that we can draw from, but just looking at this, that here this week, we're going to be increasing by 50%, which is huge. And then I think the progression will be probably in about a year to add that 4th patrol deputy, which will get you like I said, a near 24-hour coverage. Yeah, hiring is tough. At the sheriff's office, we've done a good job. I think you probably remember from my presentation last month that we've hired 80 deputies in the last 3 years, 81 deputies in the last 3 years, plus another 6 just this year, being 2 months into it. So we're doing fairly well at the sheriff's office and continuing to fill those vacancies. And if we stay on this pace, we're going to be also filling the vacancies of our positions that were awarded by the levy that was passed by the citizens in Clackamas County. And so there'll be additional deputies that weren't on the road, a few years ago. So we're filling those holes plus the new deputies that we have. I just wanted to touch on the one point. I completely understand the response time, and I think you're going to see that is something that's on my mind constantly, and we're working to drive that down with adding, increasing this. 1 deputy will make a huge difference here in town. The other thing that we have to keep in mind is that the times where the city is not paying for a deputy to be here in town, that's a response from or that the deputies that are here are responsible for all of Clackamas County and all of this district. And so you just have to keep in mind that there's taxpayers outside the city that are also wanting that same response time or a low response time. So as the amount of deputies increase here in the city, then the response time will go down, and they are dedicated to the city of Estacada.
Any other comments? My sense of things is that we're not at an action item point now, and we're just information gathering. Is that right? Okay. All right. So what do we say? Table it or? Okay,
I don't think you have to do anything. You just.
perfect.
I did
Next.
I did look at my calendar. I am out of town next month,
Sure.
but I'm more than happy to be prepared
Yeah.
at the following meeting.
Yeah, there's no urgency.
Yep.
So next up is the priority project list discussion. I'm assuming that's traffic stuff. I'm not sure if that's traffic stuff or if it's the committee goals. That probably would have said committee goals, so.
I think at your last meeting, you guys talked about trying to create a list of projects like within the city, like the 10th and Broadway or Lawrence Road, those projects, like compiling a list of them so you can start bringing them to council and recommending like, this is a high priority item. What can we do to start getting this rolling?
Comment?
I think Jim was going to kind of what you just said, Evelyn, is going to kind of next week bring that stuff that we look at. It'll probably be on this priority hits.
So you want to just roll it over to the next meeting?
Yeah, I think that's, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So next up then is 445 Southwest Elm Road.
And you have the pictures in your packet, but I'll also put them up on the screen.
I can't speak to this.
So
Um,
Jim sent these photos. I don't know if Carrie, you know anything about these ones?
Yeah, these are, we did a photo shoot on this. This is where we were called by two different people, contacted. And this is a no parking zone and people are parking there and it's posted also for fire department. And it runs pretty long all the way up to 224 up there. But it's kind of like you need to shoot it, pressure wash it. And coat it again. There's times when this thing loads up with cars, apparently at certain times, and people say, hey, there's a sign there that says don't park there, you know, so it's. I'm not sure exactly of when that timing is, whether it's weekends or at night when people park when they come home or whatever. But that's something that we wanted to address because there's visual signs on the poles. And also, the fact that you can't hardly see the yellow stuff, the paint there anymore, so.
So is the intent to just refresh the?
Yeah.
The paint?
Yeah, blow it off and, pressure wash it, whatever it takes. And then coat it. And the signs are several signs that are visible in that area. And just kind of bring back the status that you're not supposed to park there, I guess. That would clarity.
We have that same problem on Broadway up there by the schools. I mean, they yellow coated that whole thing from the entrance to Casadero down to 10. Well, except for the parking areas. And people just park there anyway. They
Yeah, that's-
completely ignore it.
I think we're gonna document that too, in the,
Make the
photo
one-way
these
traffic,
things.
make the one-way traffic through there during the ball games.
So what's the difference between a yellow curb and a red curb?
Red curb's the fire department.
well, I think the fire department, yeah, so. This thing is,
You would.
no parking here to corner, then one of them says, fire lane, I think. So. Fire lane. Which, right there, you can see the Comcast guys, orange paint there.
So if it's a fire lane, does that warrant a red curb?
I would think the color would change, yeah.
And then if
That's
it's
my
a
guess.
fire lane with a red curb, is that a?
I don't know.
or a-
Does that look red there? But the orange is. probably-
Well, no, that's the question. Why,
Yeah.
if it's fire lane and it should be red, why isn't it? And
Yeah.
if it is red, can there be citations? And is there an opportunity to maybe put red if it's appropriate?
So just looking at these photos, it really doesn't matter. There's clearly posted signs and I can see that the curb is painted yellow. It really wouldn't matter if it was yellow or red. Citation could be issued for both. So I think I'm all for if it was, pressure washed it and redid the paint and it's just a little bit more clear, right? It's easier to sell if you end up in court and explaining to the judge that it is clearly marked. The way it is also clearly marked. I wouldn't have, any apprehension to writing a citation. And then I think as far as generally from what I've seen in my career on these types of things is if you pay a little attention to it, you write a couple of tickets, you start seeing vehicles move. The word gets out that, hey, they're writing tickets if you park against the yellow curb. And so I think a combination of cleaning it up and having our deputies pay a little attention to that, I think the problem would fix itself.
Do we have paint in stock?
We might, so that's something we could send over to Public Works and check in on if they can just easily paint that or if they would have to budget for it. So I can send that over to Dawn and find out if he can easily have someone go over there and do that, or if it would be kind of we have to budget for it and it'll be done later in the year. But I feel like it'd be pretty simple. And I think Don said at the last meeting that they were kind of in the process of chasing paint and
He did.
redoing paint, so.
Does that work?
Yeah.
I'll also add that I've had a discussion about the similar issue in the county and dealing with county road department. And I don't know if the Public Works is doing the same thing, but the county road department is getting away from painting curbs and just ensuring that the signs are clearly posted because of the maintenance part of the paint. So I don't know if that's gonna be the same issue here in the city. But again, as long as it's clearly posted with a sign, a citation can be issued.
So just have Evelyn take a look.
Yeah.
And I can ask Dawn if that's the reason of why maybe the paint is kind of just coming off is because they don't need to do it since it's clearly marked with signs. But if he is able to redo the paint, then he can also just redo it.
And it was asked from us, from the council, to start looking at surplusing certain items like the heat treated vinyl and paint, things like that for this, so that this will not be a budget item going forward. That there'd be an excess. I don't have an answer for you on what that currently looks like, but I do know that that's something that we've asked that we address.
Okay.
Don did also say that their supplier, they buy them out
Yeah.
every single time.
On the heat treated specifically, but we are buying bulk for
Yeah,
as
quantity.
you find it. That
Let's get 2 pints of paint instead of,
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
instead of one.
it is being bought in excess. Or it's on the agenda.
Okay. Have a comment, Casey? No. So next item is Northeast Sixth and Northeast Shafford intersection.
Oh, yeah, photos, this sign is not regulation height.
You sure?
Waited all night for that.
All right, so we'll need to what, just add a pole to it and we're good?
Somebody cut through a yard and left a couple of tracks through the corner yard there. Jim photoed this. Looks like they had to keep moving quickly on this, by the ice sign there. You see it kind of plowed through the yard, popped the sign out, and
Did you see the email about this?
on there was no
There was no police report generated.
Yes.
It was brought up, and then Dawn asked that if on the weekend, if you come across this, to call the emergency public work number, which was listed in that email.
Yeah.
And that it would be taken care of quicker that way, but that they had addressed that that morning or something, so.
And I can send that number to all of you so you can have it in case you do come across something like it.
good. Yes. Yes.
It was brought to our attention and to the city staff's attention immediately,
Yeah.
though, just so that you guys are aware.
Thank you. So
That's a done deal.
yeah,
Yeah. Quickly too.
so that concludes our presentations and reports. So we're moving on to committee business. Next meeting items. What do we want to talk about next time?
What Evelyn mentioned on the priority of lists, which Jim will kind of compile, I think, on what's the hot ticket, what we want to see, or by the voice of the people, what's important line items.
I'd actually like to, I attended that committee summit. And let's see, it was DEI, Art Commission, Parks, DEC, and DEI. And one of the key takeaways was some of these committees work together a lot. And, we tend to focus on a lot of, very specific things, but we do have the National Night Out. And it seems like there's an opportunity to get involved with these other committees, either in their events or inviting them to ours. And so maybe putting something like that on our agenda for next meeting, ways to work with other city committees.
Like the Arts Commission, they would like to work with, all the different
Yeah.
committees.
Jesse spoke for them.
Out of curiosity, being the new liaison, I could tell you that it's brought up last night, and it's been brought up multiple times that, you guys are gonna start to hear from the council more as far as directives and tasks that they want you to go and execute on. Is that something that has been given to you guys already? I understand that you have codes or whatnot, but have you been tasked from the city council as far as
No,
what direction they want you to charge it?
No, not
No.
yet.
Okay. I will dig into that on my end. But
Jim.
I'd be looking at that as you're looking at some of these, goal setting that you're doing and stuff like that. I would be looking for direction from what the council wants, because we are looking at all the committees at a closer look now. And I would also bring up that they are wanting to see actionable, which you guys are great. You guys are fantastic at that, but they're gonna be wanting to see measurable goals going forward. So,
actually, speaking about what we've been doing for the year or whatever, it's actually the other way around. It's been hearing what the community has to say and bringing it up, and then doing either us doing something about it or recommending something. Some examples is the woman with the stop sign up on,
Marcy.
yeah,
Yeah.
that sort of thing. So it's been very local, very immediate little stuff, but not any type of macro goals or anything like that. So. Any other comments or any other questions?
No, on the night out thing, we were talking about finding different things to give to the kids.
Right.
How about if we could find yellow safety armbands that reflect at night, kids can wear?
So actually, how about as a agenda item, starting to come up with specifics so we can get
Yeah.
ordering while the price is right.
Yeah, I can reach out to a lot of the people we had
Okay.
attend last year. Just get
And
that
right-
process started.
And so we got $500 budget for those sorts. Anything else that we want to add to next month's meeting?
We just have a question. Have they ever done fingerprints for the kids here in town? The kids here in town, they do a fingerprint like at the night out or at the school, so the kids will have fingerprints on file.
I don't know. I know what you're asking. You're asking if there's some official fingerprinting done where then there is kept a record of the kids.
You know that when my kids were in school, when they were younger, Clackamas County had that program where their kids, they went to the school, they fingerprinted the kids, and it was all kept on file. So if anybody took a kid or a kid disappeared, they could find them a lot easier.
Can they even do that now?
I will check on that, in my time here as chief. 2 years or so, we haven't done that, and I actually haven't seen us do that anywhere,
Well,
throughout the county.
My kids are in the 40s and 50s.
Yeah.
now, so.
Yeah, but I'll definitely check on that. Sarah McClure that presented to you, that I'll check with her to see if that's something that we've done, anytime recently, but could be an option. If nothing else, it'd be fun, right?
Yeah.
Chief, I always like it when you come to the meetings, and I like to put you on the spot instead of waiting for the statistics to come out. But can you you or your deputy, either one, since he patrols out here, kind of give us an update on maybe what's been happening here in Estacade in the past month? Any crime trends going on that this committee needs to know about? How are the kids before and after school? We having any issues there? How's the homeless situation downtown? Got anybody hanging out by the river? I mean, can you kind of update us on the past month, something that maybe he's seen that he can address that we need to know about?
Yeah, I'll start off, and then if Deputy Bigler has anything he wants to add, we can definitely do that. I was talking with our SRO and actually had a lengthy conversation with him yesterday. There are not any issues of concern that he's seen at the schools. It's just kind of business as usual right now. He's staying busy with
Is he checking that Ranger, what do we call that area by the cemetery, that trail? where this-
Ranger Woods.
Is he checking
Yeah.
that still? for
Yeah, I
us?
think that's definitely something that's on his list. I've asked all the deputies to patrol the school zones while they're here in town during the hours where your school's getting in and getting out. So our SRO does that in the morning. I've spent some time up here working the school zone in front of the high school. Spoke to several people that had passed through that were going a little bit fast. I think that's something that does need attention is I think it's a consistent complaint that I hear, not just from this committee, but just from the community. It's and that's not just an Estacade issue, just kind of across the board as traffic complaints are generally fairly high. One of the questions that had come to me after the annual presentation was how many of the crimes in Estacada were related to transients. You had just kind of asked something similar if there was any transient issues. It's difficult to derive that information from all of our calls for service, but I asked our strategic analysis unit to try to put some data together for me. And really it's minimal at this point of actual reported crimes or 911 calls that were transient related. Minimal at the most 10. I have to kind of sift through those 10 reports to see if they actually were related, but that was actually
What's the time frame on those 10 reports?
it was either 13 months or 14 months. I don't know off the top of my head.
Yeah, it's less than one a month.
Yeah, that was fairly low, which I was happy with. So I haven't seen any sort of spike with that. And I know that this committee had brought forward some concerns of the trail along the lake, and I know that is something that our deputies here in town have been actually working really hard on and spending some time in that area. I think that people from this committee actually went and cleaned up that area as well. So that's something we've paid attention to, but I haven't seen any increase in issues or problems with that. So from my viewpoint, the outlook is actually really good. I'm very happy with that downward trend in crime that I reported to you. That was, over the year, very large reduction in property crimes, which is always a positive thing. So I'd love to highlight that. Deputy Bigler, is there anything that you want to add or talk to the committee about?
I think one of the few things we pushed the transients out of down behind Cazadero, and they've now moved upriver to the PG property. So they still come into town. We still deal with them a little bit, but they've not been a crime problem, just kind of a vagrant problem. I've been running radar on 6th at Pierce, and today I sat up there for about an hour and a half, and everyone was under 20 or under 23. 23 was the highest I had, but most people were under 20. So I sit at the middle school and elementary school also during let out, and just be present for that. So, but other than that, no real trends.
Officer, how many folks kind of went that way up the river? I mean,
3.
three.
Yeah, and I believe there's one left up there. One of them was arrested recently. And the other one I haven't seen in a while.
Cool. Awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, final comments. Shirley, anything?
No.
Tasha? Gary? Casey?
No, sir.
Keith?
No, sir.
I have one thing for you all. Elena wanted to let you guys know that Clackamas County issued their draft wildfire protection plan. So they're accepting comments, by March 8th, and I'll send it to you all if you want to take a look, and if there are any comments, you can submit it to them. Just want to note that the city does not have a separate plan, and this plan is organized by the fire district, not the city. But if there are specific comments, you can submit it to Clackamas County.
Is it separate from the hazard plan? Or part of the hazard plan?
This is separate from the
Okay.
hazard plan. So the hazard plan, I believe, is city made, like it's city specific, but Clackamas County's wildfire is Clackamas County.
Okay.
But I do have one concern, the speed limit sign on 10th and Eagle Creek, Wade Creek, whatever you want to call it. And the flashing crosswalk sign has not been working for almost 2 weeks. I've talked to the city about it and it's still not working.
What's that address again?
Yeah,
10th and 10th and Eagle Creek Highway. It's right by the laundromat. It's the first one that we put in the city. And it's not working.
yeah, I'll let Dawn know about it.
That's solar.
I don't know if it's solar or not. I know it looks like somebody's tilted it on tops. But the crosswalks are push button. They haven't been working. I don't know if you guys have noticed that.
Bring it to me in email. We'll take care of it.
Okay, anything else?
I just want to thank you guys. And I hope I didn't step on your toes earlier by just asking for more information. I just want you to have a broad scope, and I do listen. And at that community town hall, that was something that was a pretty well discussed thing. It was a longer conversation about the highlighting having a sponsored officer and resources and things like, it was just a lot, and it's been on my mind since that conversation. So as you brought it up, I wanted to refresh that for those that weren't able to be there. But I want to thank you guys for your work of the committees and stuff like that. I'm very confident that this one is achieving the measurable goals and the things like that the council is going to be looking at a lot closer and things like that. So I really want to thank you guys for what you've done, what you do, and Chief, to you and your officers. I know you guys get scrutinized quite a bit about things, but I personally appreciate you guys. So thank you.
All right, then. Thank you, everyone, for attending and your participation. Can I?
Yeah, do it.
Oh, I need dinner.